Hi there, it's Elizabeth Ritchie, and I am taking this video to discuss translations and interpretations in the immigration context. Okay, first, let me explain that translations and interpretations are different. A translation is an interpretation of text, the written word, while an interpretation is that of the spoken word. USCIS requires that all documents not already in English be translated. Very important, there must be a certification from the translator who indicates that the translation is complete and accurate and attests to their competence as a translator. Once I received a translation from a well-known translation company in Egypt. It was beautiful. It had stamps and it had seals and it was on colored paper, but it only used the phrase certified translation. Well, guess what? Immigration said it was not in compliance with their requirements, which are spelled out in the Field Adjudicator's Manual, which you can access at uscis.gov. The translation needed to say specifically that the translator was fluent in Arabic and English, and that the translation was correct. I also want to be clear that translations don't have to be notarized. Notarizations are a way to ensure that a document is authentic, but notarizations don't bear on the accuracy of a translation. I do not suggest translating your own documents or even having a relative translate for you. Make sure that translations say something like I in the name of the person doing the translation, am fluent in English and whatever the other language is, and hereby certify that this is a true and correct translation. I also suggest that translations be signed and dated by the translator. What about extracts of documents? This is a great question. Sometimes the keeper of a record will issue an extract version of the document. This often happens in countries where the complete document is very long and has a lot of extra information in it. USCIS does accept those if they contain all the information that's necessary to make a decision on a case. For example, an official extract of a birth certificate, which fully identifies the child's parents, can be used in support of a visa petition, but one which only states the child's name and date and place of birth, for example, would not be accepted. Extracts prepared by an authorized record keeper are acceptable, but summaries prepared by translators will not be accepted by immigration. Those will result in a request for evidence and a delay or even a denial. Okay, what about at interviews? I've had this question many times. Interpreters must show they're qualified to interpret and will do so to the best of their abilities. Attorneys cannot interpret for their clients at interviews, and I don't recommend that family members interpret either. The reason for this is that the officer has the discretion whether to allow it or not, and if you don't find out until that day and the officer does not allow for it, you will have a delay and be very disappointed. I also don't recommend using a translator or interpreter who does not have immigration status. They probably will not be allowed in the building, and if they are, the result may be that they need an immigration attorney. Even though USCIS officers often speak other languages, they're mostly unwilling to speak in another language than English. So the safest thing to do is bring your own professional interpreter. I have used Rustech in the past. Not only have they done a lot of my written translations, but I've used them for in-person interpretation at immigration interviews. And I've even had them do some of my seminars where I give to civic groups and churches about immigration. I'll put their link in the comments below. So whomever does the interpreting has to swear that they're going to give a full and complete translation. All documents submitted in support of an application or petition have to include the English original as well, or a copy of the English document. As for interpretation in the immigration court, I also suggest bringing a professional translator. Immigration judges have allowed attorneys to translate in the past, but not all judges do. And last year, the Trump administration announced it would eliminate in-person interpreters for master calendar hearings. The courts have typically used a service called Lion Bridge, but many attorneys, like myself, prefer in-person interpreters because Lion Bridge is by phone. So those are my tips for understanding the translation and interpretation concept in the immigration context. I will now do the same video in Spanish. Stay tuned.